The Washington Post, WashingtonPost.com, and Washington Post Live on Comcast Sportsnet present the Nationals Video Podcast.
About the Washington Nationals, who are just coming off a series, Barry, where they just got hammered by the Detroit Tigers. Is it that much of a fundamental difference between the reigning AL champions and where the Nationals are right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the best team I've seen this year. That's the best team the Nationals have seen this year. It's a good. It gives you a good indication that the American League is still a long way ahead of the National League team by team, and in terms of having depth. But it's also, I mean, a little bit of the chickens coming home to roost here. The Nationals have kind of gotten by with this rotation that's been pieced together, all these guys you've never heard of in your life, and somehow they went 21-14 in the 35 games before that series. You know, then they get some shaky pitching performances by guys like Mike Bassick and stuff, and that lineup, that Tigers lineup, it can really, really hit. Magglio Ordonez has 34 doubles right now.
Wow.
67 is the record. He's on a pace for like 80. So they've got a lot of nice parts around. I was just totally blown away by Detroit. I'd be surprised if we didn't see him deep into October.
So as the Tigers leave, the other team that's tied in the division, the Cleveland Indians, come into town.
Have fun with that.
And you're going to see a kid tonight. I'm going to tell you what, Fausto Carmona is the real deal. When I was in Cleveland last year, they put him in as a closer, and he completely melted down at Fenway Park.
Thank
Since
God,
then, he's figured it out.
Series.
Yeah. He's figured it out, and he's people have talked about that. When you talk to hitters, they talked about, is an at-bat comfortable or uncomfortable? Carmona gives you an uncomfortable at-bat. You don't know the ball's coming hard. You don't know where it's going. You don't know which way it's going to break. This will be a treat for anybody out there at RFK tonight. The thing about the Indians coming in, they're well aware that the Tigers just came through and blew this team away. You want to match the guys that you're competing with, you better come in here and win 3 as well. So the Nationals is a very, very difficult position.
They're currently tied with the Tigers.
Yeah, they're tied at the top of the AL Central,
you were talking earlier about the Baltimore Orioles and what they have to do to build a structure and a base. The Cleveland Indians are the blueprint of what it takes when you have a small income and you're trying to build up your farm system. What Mark Shapiro has done there is really prove that if you build up the draft, if you build through there, you can have success.
Well, and one of the things they did is, they're starting to do, is try to lock up their guys who are not arbitration eligible and not free agent eligible to long-term contracts. They did it with Grady Sizemore, and anybody going out to RFK this weekend should watch the Indian center fielder, Grady Sizemore. There's no commodity that the Nationals need more than a leadoff man who can play a great defensive center fielder, other than maybe a couple starting pitchers. They had Grady Sizemore when he was a Montreal Expos farmhand, and they made a trade for him when they thought that contraction was going to happen and the Expos were going to go away. So if you want to go back to the origins of why this team is in the position it is now, the Nationals, you go back to a guy like Grady Sizemore and trading him away when you thought you were going to be eliminated. He's a tremendous player.
What happens when Bergman, Patterson, and Hill come back with the guys that have pitched now, had some innings under their belt? What happens to them?
See ya. You don't have to ask any questions. I mean, it's unfortunate. Some of them have pitched well, but you're now seeing a guy like Mike Bassick, is trying to, showing why he wasn't in the majors since 2004. Micah Bowie, who's pitching tonight, has done a really, really good job. He's the one who might be able to hang in there, but we've already seen Laval Spigner. He's out from the rotation. Jason Simontachi might stick around, but there are no questions asked. Jason Bergman comes back. He's pitching Tuesday in Atlanta. When Sean Hill's healthy, he will pitch as well, and Patterson as well. So there's those guys were gap guys for a reason.
They're obviously not going to be buyers at the trading deadline. They're going to be sellers, because some of these other kids have shown a little something now that they've gotten to look-see with all the injuries. Excuse me, particularly pitchers. What do you see them doing as we get towards the deadline?
Well, I think the guys that are the most attractive actually aren't the pitchers that have filled in. I think Dimitri Young is their most attractive commodity, and this was the blueprint in spring training. You sign a guy who was troubled, who Jim Bowden, the GM, knew from his past and thought he was a better person that he had showed over the last year. He's paying him $500,000. Guy's crushing the ball from both sides of the plate. He's got some pop. If you're an American League team, I saw Minnesota a couple weeks ago. You put him in that lineup, and the Twins are right in it with the Tigers and the Indians. So he's their number one guy. I think Ronnie Belliard, who was traded from Cleveland to St. Louis and was part of a World Championship team last year, would be another really nice fit, a bench player, experienced guy. Those would be your top two guys, I think.
But Barry, if Dimitri Young is sent out of town, who's going to represent the Nationals in the All-Star game?
It's a very
only viable candidate.
He's the guy who would be your all-star right now. So what if he gets named the Nationals All-Star on, I guess it would be about July 2nd or 3rd, they would name the team. And then in the interim 10 days, he gets traded, and they got to name it. I mean, there are some kind of intriguing
It's kind of a catch-22 because, I mean, everybody knows that Dimitri Young can't field. And he's not hitting for power. Thankfully, he went on an ungodly tear. He was hitting 500 for a few weeks there, so his average is real ballooned. It would probably be in their best interest to try to move him now.
You got to figure out what the market for any player. I mean, okay, so they're going to trade him. Well, what's your highest return on your investment? What are people offering? And unless we know that, then this whole idea of oh they've got to trade him is kind of baloney.
Guys, let's go to a.
For more Washington sports coverage, watch Washington Post Live Monday through Friday from 5 to 6:30 p.m. on Comcast Sportsnet. The Nationals Baseball Video Podcast is produced by Comcast Sportsnet, The Washington Post, and WashingtonPost.com.